Alright, let's try this again. Some easy technical difficulties. So, let's try it again. Rob, are you there? Let's try this again. There we go.
Yes,
Better?
yeah, much better, much
I
better.
don't know. I just went and paid the bill real quick, so. Well, we'll let everybody get in here for a second, but welcome. Rob said, hey, why don't we hop on and talk about Derby for a little while? So figured we hop on and have a little 5 o'clock happy hour and talk about Derby and answer some questions and, right into what would we be doing right about now? What are you doing? Come on.
This is what we would be doing right about now.
Yes.
We would be inside. We'd walk down to the bar, me and Andy and Jamie, and we'd go have us a little snooter before the race just to knock the edge off. And then we'd walk out on the track.
Yeah, it's about 5 o'clock. I mean, Woodford runs in about, 35 minutes?
35 minutes,
5:40-ish?
yeah.
So the next race is on turf. So race before Derby is on the turf. So we'd be all set with the dirt remotes, taking off all the bags and whatnot and getting ready and in all our positions. So
yes, but it would be as usual. I'm sure if we were there at the Derby, if it was normally being run, it would be pissing rain right now.
It's the weather today. Did
Yeah,
you look at
it's gorgeous. It's
gorgeous.
Absolutely
gorgeous and crazy. So we'd have the whole crew, and I'm sure we'd be running by the seat of our pants right about now because something's not working or whatnot.
Yeah, it's always something.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, cheers to the Kentucky Derby, Michael. I'm sure you have
cheers to the Derby.
I'm sure you have a nice Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke or something. Drinking a little agua.
A little agua right here. So we're all set, covered here.
So yeah. So how many derbies have you done, Michael?
How many did I do? I assisted the American Pharoah Derby. So I assisted there and helped Palmer set remotes there on the fourth turn. We actually set a remote on the inside of the track on the fourth turn, which was nice, and had Pharoah full frame by himself around in the turn. So we did him, and then we did Nyquist, Always Dreaming, Justify, and who was last year?
The horse that got DQ'd.
Yes, yeah. So I've done 16. 16 was Pharoah. 15 was
15.
Pharoah.
15.
I've assisted 15 and shot 16, 17, 18, 19. So
very nice.
And this would have been your 30th?
It's been my 30th, yeah. I did my first in 86 with the Blood Horse, and then I missed 3. I think I missed 3.
Because of, where were you?
I was like...
were you in Bama for those?
No, I was in Bama for one of them, I think. And then I was in Augusta working at the paper down there and couldn't get away for like 1 or 2 years. But I always made it a point to come back every year. So
yeah,
it was it's almost like a homecoming, almost like a high school reunion.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. As much as I miss the race and being out there with all the fans, but I most miss seeing everybody from everybody that comes in, and we spend most of the time talking to people and catching up. So I feel like that's what I miss the most.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's like seeing, the photographers and stuff. It's just seeing everybody who still lives there, and I wish Alex Evers was on here so he could see that I had AirPods, but he's not. So
well, you can text him and we'll screenshot it and show that you had him in for a second. So there it is. Look at that. We'll make sure to send that on. So
yeah. So yeah.
So I mean, I guess question wise, like for people that don't know, where around the whole track is what? How far?
What, it's a mile and a
mile or so.
Yeah.
So we would have how many people out there, and where would everybody be located?
Oh, we got somebody in the head-on. We got on the roof, 2 shooters on the side, fourth turn. Some years we have a third turn, so it's usually like 7 or 8. I mean, it depends.
Yeah. And then remote wise, where all of our remotes?
Well, we've got a remote in the first turn, that kind of classic horses going in the first turn picture. That's usually fired by who's ever doing the head-on shot. And then Jamie Squire's done the roof for us past couple of years, and he's always adding all sorts of different remotes. So he usually has,
Tilt shift. Yeah.
yeah, tilt shift half a dozen, and then we've got 6. I think we've done as many. I think we've done as few as 4 under the rail, but I think 1 year I had like 10 up.
Yeah, 4 was the Justify year.
4 was the
Yeah, the rain.
Because it pissed rain. Can you say pissed on this?
I mean, you're on my Instagram, so
I
don't know what I'm thinking, but hey.
Hold on. Let me channel my inner Jesus before we get going here.
Oh no. Hi mom. Hi dad.
This is Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And then in the fourth turn, Andy usually puts a handful of them on top of the gate.
Yeah.
And
that's right. Yeah.
In the dirt, and then we try and come up with usually something different. So,
have you shot from every position possible?
I think I have. The first year I did the Derby in '86, I shot the third turn. The horse is coming into the third turn. I shot it from a tree. I was standing on a ladder, hand holding a Nikon 400 3.5, shooting color negative film. And I shot that my first year. I shot it from there. I've shot the fourth turn. I've shot the head on. I shot it inside. I've done the roof. When Winning Colors won, I was on the roof for Blood Horse, which is pretty cool. I shot it from a helicopter in 2000.
Wow,
that was pretty cool. Back before, airspace got a little restricted.
Yeah.
But that was probably one of the most interesting ones because I was shooting film in 2000. That's the year that Monarchos won. And I was doing it for Blood Horse. And we took off in Indiana. And so we flew. I did the race, landed at the airport, and then drove to the film lab back in Lexington. Literally, I was done with my entire day like an hour and a half after the race because there was no traffic on the Indiana side because we flew, landed in Indiana, got out, just got on 64 and went
avoided it all. Dang.
Yeah. So that was like one of the most fascinating ones.
That's interesting. Can you name all the Derby winners since you shot?
Oh, holy smokes.
Don't actually try, but could you if you thought about it enough?
No. If I got my Derby glass, I could look at it, but yeah. The first one I did was Willie Shoemaker's last Derby win.
Oh, nice.
So that was pretty closing that gap from the 60s, all the way up to the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I know you had that video earlier on Getty. What, other than that, like, what's been like, I guess your favorite picture from it, short of that, whether a celebration, like, and then maybe on the flip side, what was the worst or?
That's real easy. I think my favorite was probably in '93 when there was 2 favorites. '93 when Sea Hero won. Jerry Bailey rode Sea Hero to win because it was just a mega jubo, and we were all shooting manual focus, and that was such a hard thing to follow them through onto coming across the finish, and then when they come up and they react, that was a hard thing to do. So that was like the first time I really got that.
Yeah.
So that was one of my favorites. My other favorite, I think, was when Pat Day won his first and only Derby on Lily T. Because he went absolutely bonkers after he won, and it was nice to see him, win because he's such a down to earth person, and he had so many attempts at winning the Derby, and he finally did it. And then I think the worst had to be what was it? Early '90s, Go for Gin, Nick Zito's horse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That finished so far on the outside.
Really?
It wasn't even funny. That changed the way everybody did remotes.
Okay.
Because the horse finished so far out, and everybody's like, "Oh!" I mean, people there. I've got a frame of the horse from the side, with a 70 to 200.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there were a lot of people who just absolutely whiffed that finish
Wow.
because that horse
Yeah.
finished so far wide right. Um, let's see, and I'm sure there was other ones that I blew too, but yeah. But for the most part, it's just it's just a fun day, fun event.
Yeah. Well, how has it changed over the years? Because I mean, clearly the lights are one major one that changed a ton. But what other changes have you seen over the years at Churchill specifically, and then in photo wise too, access wise, where we can go, whatnot.
I don't think much has changed access wise about where we can and can't go. Um, and luckily, I mean, this is probably all going to change because of what's
Yeah.
going on right now. But Churchill, they credential a lot of photographers. But I think Patrick Smith, I knew he would be here. That's why I refused to tell him because I knew he'd get on here and start making ignorant posts. He should be sitting on his back porch enjoying them fat crabs he's got. But I think the thing that really that's made it from a photo standpoint is the fact that, like you said, they put up lights. But I think the biggest thing is putting up the lights and then moving the post time back because the light is absolute crap when it goes off now at 6:34. So you get the horses finish in shadow, the remotes are terrible, and they added that grandstand too. I mean, they totally changed the face of that track. I mean, it's still pretty in the early morning and stuff like that, but it's not like it used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it; they needed to upgrade it, but they took some liberties with their building codes. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
with it in September, you think the light's going to be different?
It's interesting you say that. I talked to Michael Clevenger from the Courier Journal last week, and Michael being the Boy Scout that he is, already had looked at the Farmer's Almanac to see what time the sunset's going to set, and he thinks it's going to be somewhat similar.
Okay.
My biggest fear, though, is that they will push the post time back and run it at night.
Really? Okay.
Because you got so much competition during the day from college football at that point. You're going to have college football. You're going to have baseball. You're going to have, well, maybe is right. And they got lights, and I can see them wanting to, in years past, they always timed the Derby so it would finish before an NBA game that was going to start on the West Coast on the Saturday. So it was like a double header. So who knows? I would hate to see them do that.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of drunk ass people driving back home to Louisville and Lexington after all day in the sun at Churchill, though.
Yeah, you think they'll do the whole Oaks and Derby back to back, and much like
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. I think my biggest concern about it is whether or not they're going to allow fans in.
Yeah, of course.
Because I don't think we know where we're at right now. That would be a shame.
Yeah.
But how do you social distance at a racetrack?
Of course.
So
it's tough.
Yeah.
Especially in the infield or places like that, you can't separate the sections, out enough. And same thing, photo. I mean, we're side by side with everybody. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, we definitely are, and I think that's a bigger question for photographers moving forward. When it comes to workrooms and stuff like that, there's a lot of workrooms where you're stacked in there.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to change that.
Of course.
But anyway, I digress. But
yeah.
So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
So what's your favorite memory from the Derby?
Like shooting it or editing, or like when I was a kid as well?
Both.
I mean, growing up in Louisville, I mean, we got out of school on Fridays for it, and for Oaks, and because that was the day the teachers went, and so growing up, we would have parties and cut out the newspaper and study each horse, and I don't know if you remember the Courier. They would line up all the little pieces of paper. Or on the paper, they would line up little each of the jockey silks, and we'd cut
Right.
those out, and put them in a hat, and everybody would get 2 or 3, and you get really into it. And so growing up, I loved doing that, and we'd put some money in there, and $20 or whatnot, and the winner would get to eat 10, and then 5, and then 3 and 2 or whatnot. So shooting wise, I mean, like I said this morning, I think the morning workouts are my favorite. Just the freedom to be out there, knowing it's going to be full. I have fond memories of the rain. I mean, I can't tell you how many times it's rained in the mornings there. Just absolute. I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, last year was really bad, and then 2 years before that was just unreal. And the fact that there were so much rain, and it just changed the conditions. So. Yeah, it's crazy. So, mornings would be my favorite. Shooting wise, I mean, my first is always going to be memorable. Shooting it. I remember, as I see Palmer comment here, helping him.
I
my
did.
first year with Pharaoh, helping him and cutting the wire and just learning how it all works. And I was terrified because I thought I was going to leave the wire in the. Oh, okay, there you go. Everest hopped in. There you go. He wanted you to see he's got AirPods on. Joining the club. So.
But hey, so not to interrupt you, but to go back to Palmer's thing, if they run it right, yeah, it will balance it out. But if they run in it, that's what I'm afraid of. They're going to run in it dark, Although I will show you. Hold on, I will show you something. One of the coolest pictures that's come out of Churchill Downs was Ben Van Hook's picture from Breeders' Cup Classic in '88, and.
Can you close your blind? We can barely see that. We got the reflection.
No.
Or stand in front of it. Can you stand in front and cover it? Yeah, there you
go. I don't know if you can see it or not, but
yeah, we see it. Yeah.
But I mean, that to me, that would be, if Palmer's right, yeah, it'd be great if it balanced it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to answer.
No, you're
this
good.
question.
Yeah, no, I mean that was what I say. I mean, morning workouts. I'm gonna post it here in a little while, but in shooting the infield and the craziness, the $1. There was a guy walking around one year and was offering $1 lap dances, and there were some older ladies in the infield that took advantage of that, and this guy made for a great picture, and it was really funny. So memories like that, and the people watching is great, the hat watching is great, the features. It's very Kentucky, and not much beats it. So,
yeah, that's true. How many lap dances did you get?
None.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Business.
Yeah.
You're in business.
So, as a kid, the Derby was always a big thing to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
But I never went. I'll say that.
Why didn't you ever go as a kid?
Never went. I don't know. We always watched it from home, and I think I want to say I should ask. I can't remember, but I think one year I went Oaks and paid to be in the infield, and it was a terrible experience. But other than that, I've worked it whatever all those 1 year, and then shot it 4. So
that's cool. Yeah, I don't think I have. I think I've been to Churchill Downs in my 53 years. I think I've been to Churchill Downs twice as a spectator, and not anywhere near Derby.
Yeah.
It was always like when I lived there, going over there, for one of the meets or something like that. But I used to go to Keeneland a lot more.
Mm-hmm, of course.
Just because it was closer. But yeah, it's been fun to see when we were talking about how things have changed there, how the evolution of how we used to do things, back in the film days, like only the AP, and in the early days, like I think it was like the AP and maybe a couple of the other wire services would have dark rooms on site.
Mm-hmm.
But, most everybody, like the Herald Leader, they would drive their film back to Lexington. The CJ would message film all day long from the track.
Yeah.
And then as the digital world came in, they finally realized that, hey, everybody needs to stay there and file their stuff from there. Um, so, and that, now we have this, beautiful press center,
Yeah.
uh, the parlor or whatever.
Parlay.
Um, yeah, with the parlay, which has been nice. I mean, that's one of the best things of it. I mean, you know, because the AP used to have a dark room right when you walk from the track to the paddock.
Okay.
The AP used to have a dark room right off to the right back in there, and they used to bring in a Fuji Niritsu machine where they would ship that Niritsu in and they would process film in there. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, which was amazing. I remember, I think it was back in the 98, 99, one of the first times I ever worked with Doug Penzinger from Getty, who, if you haven't applied for his scholarship, you should. I think the
It's
deadline was right.
closed. It's
It's
closed.
close. But Andy and Doug were actually working out of like some closet, like off of, one of the tunnels going out to the grandstand. Um, so the fact that that's changed and that's civilized and it's not a bunch of savages anymore, that's been a nice plus to it. But I
What's
mean,
your
those are
what's your favorite picture? Not that you've shot, but that you've seen from Derby overall. Because there's so many, like you were saying, there's so many photographers. What's a picture you've seen that's unique or different out of it?
wow, that's a good question.
I know there's the guy that crawled under the railing with the jockeys fighting, but I'm trying
the
to think of some others.
the fighting finish, obviously. Um, the CJ photographer, back in the 30s, who did that. I mean,
Iconic, yeah.
that's iconic. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, and there's been some good angles. Some different angles to get. But I mean, I think that's the thing. The big thing is trying to get to come up with new angles, to try and do different things, to try and be creative. I mean, everybody expects the under the rail remote picture. Everybody expects the head on picture. I mean, those are pictures that everybody gets. But I think from a creative standpoint, it's more challenging and more fulfilling. I think, especially the more you do, to try and come up with something creative. I mean, it took 5 of us to do this. I can't take credit for it. But we put a camera on the light pole right on the finish line, which was unique, which was different. One year I put a tilt shift up back in the stands on the finish. Trying to do different pictures looking back at the spires. One year I did a black and white infrared remote. Just trying to come up with something, I think, a little different, just to be different.
What's the craziest thing you've seen at Churchill Downs? It can be infield, it can be photo wise, it can be anything. But what's the craziest thing you've seen?
I think last year's finish was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff in the infield back in the days when when it was back in the 80s, when it was full on craziness.
Yeah.
But I think that finish last year, because I remember, you remember it too. I came back in, with the disc and brought him in and was getting ready to sit down and help you guys edit. And I looked up and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yep.
So I grabbed my camera and went back out there. I mean, I'd never seen that's historic from a Derby standpoint. I mean, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, of course. We sent pictures.
Right.
Yeah, we had sent the finish. So
yeah, you'd sent the finish, and that wasn't the horse that won. I mean, no. It was a Country House that won.
Yep.
And actually, if anybody's really that interested, there's a great article that was just out today or yesterday about how Country House, after that race, just disappeared off the map.
Absolutely disappeared. Yep.
Horse got sick, went back to the farm, did all this, and never mounted. He's going to start covering mares, but that was the most unusual. I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy things. I mean, I saw that, and to jump away from the Derby for a second, probably the craziest thing I've ever seen is one year, one of the undercard races at the Preakness. some guy jumped the fence and ran on the track and tried to punch a horse that Jerry Bailey was riding.
Is that during
And
the Preakness actual race or?
no, it wasn't during a race. It was one of the undercard races. And it was just the craziest thing you ever did see. And I just happened to be, this was back in the film days. So you would go out and you would shoot a lot of the other races, trying to get your timing down for the manual focus and all that. And I just happened to be out there with a 500 and was shooting them coming down the stretch. It was halfway between the fourth turn and the finish. And a guy ran out and just tried to swing at the horse, and all the horses kind of went around. Luckily, nobody fell. And then the cops went up and pummeled him because, you know,
Wow.
this is Baltimore.
Of course. Got a couple questions here. Let's
Shoot.
hit those. Matt Thomas asked, "How big is the Getty squad and how many remotes?" So I know he briefly did it, but
I think it kind of depends on the year. I think we normally have about 7 or 8. It's a much smaller team, but I think we've kind of learned over time, what's important and what we need to do. In the remotes, it kind of depends. I think we can do anywhere from how many cameras do we normally get? I think we get 12 cameras.
yeah.
So
we have the 4 in the dirt. We have 2 on the tree.
6.
1 on the final turn or the first turn, and then Andy has his remote on the final turn, and then either 2 or 3 with Jamie up top, and then the 2 or 3 gate remotes. Right? Is that
right? So I think we're looking at probably
11 or 12. Yeah.
11 or 12. It's usually around 12 remotes.
Yeah.
And to answer Justin's question, I'm not going to tell you what I would have done differently this year because I got a couple ideas and I don't want anybody else to steal them.
James Gilbert asks, "Are all the remotes connected via Ethernet?" Maybe talk about as soon as the race ends, what that kind of looks like for the whole team and who covers what. You have the winner's circle. You have clearly getting photos up immediately, and then you have the horse coming back with the roses, and maybe talk about that.
That's a good question. We have done Ethernet before. We have tethered all these things into a server where they've all spooled back in, and they've been. 1 year we fired them using Ethernet cables, I think, or I think we switched the last minute back to Zipline. But normally what happens is everybody's in position. The race goes off. You shoot the race. Somebody grabs the remote disc. The guy who does the head-on usually comes up,
Yep.
swaps his disc with somebody who runs them all in. The guy from the fourth turn, it's usually Andy, comes down because he has plenty of time and sets up and does the winner's circle. I think we get 2 winner's circle vests, right?
Yep. We have the 1 inside and then 2 outside shoot.
2 outside, so we shoot it with a long lens from behind. So it's pretty well planned about who's coming in, who's going. You start breaking down stuff because that's the biggest setback is the race lasts 2 minutes and 1 second, and you spend 14 hours diddling with cameras and
that speaks to Brock's question. How important is teamwork for an event that ends within minutes? Because we only really get, every photographer takes what, max 30 pictures?
Basically, yeah.
Other than winner circle, but
yeah, you have. Michael Clevenger summed it up when I talked with him the other day. He was like, "You literally have 20 seconds to take a picture."
Yep.
But from where your position is, you have a 20-second window of when they're coming into your frame, into your camera, and your lens. But the remote cameras, how many seconds do they? That's maybe
10 seconds.
No, let's say the wide angle on the finish.
Yeah.
That's what maybe. What do we normally get out of that?
You start it when down the ways when they're coming, and you have to wait for all 20 to go by. So maybe 8 seconds max, 6 seconds.
Right, but it takes. You're going to fire for 10 seconds max when you press the button. But the problem with it is that one frame is going to hit.
Right.
For a tenth of a second.
Oh, not even. Yeah, right.
So that's the crazy thing. So you spend all this time, all this money, all this energy planning for this, you know, because you're focusing on a certain part of the track. You know, you're thinking, this is where I think the horse is going to run. So you focus there, you aim there, and you hope like hell they run there. But to get back to Brock's question, I mean, that's the biggest point of it is the teamwork aspect. Is, you know, everybody needs somebody to give them a second opinion, to help take a look through the lens, to look through the viewfinder, to say, you know, I mean, I could go down there. It's like you and I together. We've worked together for long enough doing this. You know, I still need somebody to look at my shit to go, hey, maybe you should move it a little bit to the right. Maybe you should move it a little bit to the left. And, you know, you move it this way and I move it this way. And I'll go, no, let's move it back. You know, so there is a lot of teamwork about, you know, getting people's opinions, because you can kind of get tunnel vision into what you think. So that's why it's so invaluable.
Yeah.
So.
It's great.
Oh, why are you asking questions in Spanish?
I'm trying to read it, but I can't get it.
I think he says something about
has lenses and cameras.
One carrier. Yeah. We use the same lenses and cameras.
Sorry, Orlando.
Orlando, come on, man. You know how bad my Spanish is. You were with me 2 months ago. And did you find my monopod? Anyway.
Are any of your remotes on autofocus or all pre-focused? Ooh, here we go.
James, that's an excellent question. James, that has been the biggest, not hang up, but that's been one of the biggest questions. Can you put the remotes on autofocus and will they work? I, against my better judgment, in 2018, tried that. And good God almighty, did it pay off. I mean, the camera, literally, there was more. Yeah. Thank you, sweet baby Jesus' father. There was more usable frames using the follow autofocus on the camera that I was using than I've ever gotten out of that one remote in particular.
Yep. Yeah, we took that and we made, what was that? The 16 to 35? What was that? The front one?
12 to 24.
12 to 24. Yep. We put that on auto. I mean, that was last second. Because that was the year everything went to all the wires jumped, right? Because, yeah, I mean, explain that, because we're on, what is it, cable wire? What
well, we were trying to do it with Ethernet.
Right.
And everything started running on Ethernet. When I say running, every time it would plug in, every time it would touch a connection, all the cameras would start firing. They have the thing called, they start shorting out. They have polarity issues. So last minute, we switched it back to the old 18 gauge speaker wire, basically, with added taps and stuff like that, and wrapped them up. And we were doing this when it was just constantly raining the entire time. And I think we finally got that done just
10 minutes before race time.
10 minutes before the horses came out. And in that particular sequence, that front camera, the second camera, we had another camera with an 85-1.2.
Yeah, then you're talking about the remote that we put on autofocus was a front in the dirt camera. Just so
it was a front
knows. Yeah.
in the dirt camera, and then not a head on. And then the second camera was an 85, which we put it on autofocus.
Yes.
The third camera, I think, was like a 24-70, and then the last camera was a 300. And the 300, the front camera and the back camera were fine.
Yes.
For some reason, they didn't get hit with mud, but the other two cameras got completely covered with mud the first time the horses came by. But that front camera hit and that back camera hit. And I mean, it was nice, but it's just luck of the draw. I mean, you know, I've done the Preakness before where all of my remotes got shorted out. except I think one when American Pharoah won.
Yeah.
Um,
How many cameras
yes.
have you lost gear wise because of rain at Derby? I guess
Um,
technically not you, but how many have the team lost over the years?
I know people. I mean, cameras have went down because of weather. They've
Yeah.
shorted out. I mean, I can't think of a certain offhand. They have. We have lost a fewer here. So,
Brock asks, have you done the porta potty
hi
run?
Trudy.
Have you photographed or seen the porta potty
Porta
run?
potty run is.
Preakness.
I have the porta potty run is during the Preakness. Um, so yes, but I have done that. And hi Trudy. My favorite derby was. Um, I don't know. I've had a lot of good derbies where I've had a good time. Um, and I think that's what I judge it on. I mean, yeah, it's nice to come out with nice pictures, but um, I think probably one of I think my favorite hands down has to be when I go back and think about it is when American Pharoah won because it was the beginning of what I'd been after since 1986, and that's photographing a Triple Crown. Um,
You didn't photograph one before him, correct?
no, the last one, the one before him was Seattle Slew in what 77.
Right. Yeah, you weren't. Okay, got it. I just want to make sure.
Um, so
Matt Thomas asks, curious about remotes exposure. Since the Derby is the last race, we had issues with the shadows creeping in and how to use auto ISO. So maybe speak to that because I know that's what we do.
that's what I like to do is I tend to use auto ISO as long as it's not super super bright out. But I just the way that the cameras have advanced, using auto ISO at an event like that is the only way to go. I mean, you're not, you can pretty much trust that. I use the exposure compensation to, if it's a little not backlit, but if it's a little brighter in the background than it is on the foreground, I'll use exposure compensation. But auto ISO is the only way to go. It's the only way to, if you try and do all that stuff on manual, the exposure changes by the time you have to get away from the cameras when the horses come out for the post parade. By the time they come down, I mean, it's almost 15 minutes. So there's not much you can do. Yes, CPS does Canon. Thanks to our good friends at Canon. They do loan us a lot of extra bodies and a lot of extra lenses. Both Canon, Nikon, and Sony are usually at the Derby offering support, so that's a very nice thing. It's also a good chance for people to check out all the latest gear that those camera companies have. But as I've said before, it's just a camera, it's just another hammer. Doesn't matter which one you're using, Canon, Sony, Nikon, they're all about the same.
Let me think. What about I mean, we don't interact much with athletes in general, but horse racing is a little different because we see them every year, and it's kind of like as they're walking to the track, you say hello and whatnot. What is there a person in the horse industry, whether it be a trainer or a jockey, that over the years you've got to know or noticed and said hello to, and somebody you enjoyed working with or photographing, I guess?
I think Pat Day was one of those. Because I used to shoot a lot more horse racing. I mean, now I pretty much do 4 races a year. But I kind of got to know Pat Day a little bit because I did a portrait with him down in Florida one year for a magazine. And he was just a super nice guy. He's one of them. I tend not to interact a whole lot with a lot of these people. You see them and you talk to them, and the Derby's a little bit bigger of a stage than when they come to Baltimore and at the Preakness. We always go to the Alibi breakfast at the Preakness, which is pretty informal, laid back thing, and but it's kind of like you kind of swoop in and you do it and then you leave. And to answer Brock's
Yep,
question,
I was just about to say.
people are looking for the opportunity to shoot their first derby. I think there's a lot of opportunities for photographers to come and assist. I think Michael can attest to that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody needs an extra hand at derby, whether it's lugging gear or you know, ingesting cards or
Yeah.
and fortunately, it's one of the sports where we can still get the credentials for.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well, right now.
right now, we all might be social distancing and not doing a whole lot come September. I hope that's not the case,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, that's how I basically got my first start. Was I helped Martin Jesse, God rest his soul, drag his cameras and help him set up remotes, and then go shoot on the third turn. So.
Yep, that was. I mean, the first time I ever met you was Breeders' Cup.
The one in Churchill or the one in
Keeneland with American Pharoah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Remember? Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say inappropriate things to you?
Among many things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had a good time. That was fun.
Yeah, you and I'll tell this story because it's funny, but I had never. I guess I assisted for Derby with Palmer, but I had never shot a big horse race. And you put me on the stand with 3 photographers on the inside, and you put the remote in my my right hand, and then a camera in my right with the 7200. And I said, how am I supposed to hold the camera with the 7200 and find the button? And all you said was, make sure you fire the remote. If you get the picture, great. If you don't, you don't. And I honestly can say that's the scariest I've ever shot something. I totally. I mean, American Pharoah won the
Classic.
first time ever,
Yep.
and I was like, I'm not gonna get a picture here because I'm gonna mess up the remote, and then or I'm gonna get the picture and miss the remote. And honestly, like if you were to ask me my single scariest moment shooting something, I would say that.
Did you get both pictures?
I got both pictures.
Yeah, you did. So what's the problem? Stop complaining about it. You did what you're supposed to do. I knew you could do it.
Yeah, you believed in me more than I believed in myself, so I appreciate that.
Well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that was a fun time.
That was a good one.
So hold on a second.
You're fine. Any other questions from the comments while we wrap it up here? I'm trying to think. Any other Derby questions? What do you think? What do you think they're going to do with the Triple Crown this year?
They're going to try like hell to get it in. But I've heard rumblings that they might try and run the Preakness before the Derby.
Yeah, that's what I wonder.
Yeah. I hope they get it in.
You're not going to have the Bluegrass Stakes. You don't have the Florida Derby. You don't have a lot of those Arkansas Derby. Some of those that I guess they all run, but they're going to be out of order and months away. So.
Well, they had the stakes race today in Arkansas.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's the way they're going to do it, and the way the horses are going to have to qualify. I mean, it's horse racing. They'll figure it out. They need the revenue, just like all of us need revenue. So
you were going to say something. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I was going to say something. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The only thing I want to say is to me, the best part about the Derby, I think is, the color of the Derby, the sport, the tradition, the sport of kings, all of that is a lot of fun. But I think to me the best thing about it is just going back and seeing all these people that you see once a year, and the great thing about it is when you're doing remotes, you're doing all that. We've all worked together long enough. Everybody helps everybody. Everybody's nice to everybody. The camaraderie and
more so than any other event, I think I would say.
More so, I mean, I've borrowed more taps and cables and connections, and people have borrowed more stuff from me than I can count on one hand. Rubber bands and but I mean that's just a part of it, because I think at the end of the day we realize we're just taking pictures, man. We're not curing cancer. You know, I mean, no, but on that aspect, I mean, yeah, it's fun. I mean, I still, you know, when the horses come out in the post parade and they start playing My Old Kentucky Home, oh,
Yep.
I
Every
mean, if the
time.
the hair on the back of your neck don't stand up, you ain't an American.
Yeah. No.
You know what I'm saying?
Nope. Something about it. I mean, that would almost be right about 10, 15 minutes from now.
Yeah, it's 5:51. Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
We'd be getting there. So pretty crazy.
yeah. So,
Hey, I'm sure we'll get to hear that again soon enough. So
well, if you get a chance, if anybody's really into the Kentucky Derby, um, go to YouTube, type in John Prine, My Old Kentucky Home. One of the prettiest versions you'll ever hear of it. So,
yeah, and also on the Getty site, there's the 65. I'm looking at it now. But the Kentucky Derby through the years, there's a whole gallery of 65 pictures of the best pictures from way back when to just as recently as last year. And I know there's a whole gallery on hats. So you can go there and look at those as well, with some great pictures from the entire team. So,
yes. Hold on. The Image of Oz is saying something. And yes, I had a great time at the President's Cup in Melbourne. You were shooting for Aussie TV, was too shy to say good day. Holy cow. Why would you not say hi? You're crazy. I'm never going to be in Melbourne again. They're not crazy enough to send me back.
they're not crazy enough to let you back.
Yeah, well, after all this is over, I might not be able to leave. It used to be the running joke at Getty that I was never allowed to go west of the Mississippi. But, so anyway,
Well, that'll be another Instagram live story day for another day.
that's true. That's true. And by the way, Australia was awesome. It was phenomenal. It was a good time. So anyway,
All right. Well, any other questions other than that? I think. Are you got any, Rob?
I don't.
Me neither.
I don't. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can think of for the Derby.
Favorite restaurant in Louisville?
Oh, hands down. Hands down. Favorite restaurant. You know where it is, that Mexican place.
Yep.
Yes, Santa Fe,
What is
right?
it? Santa Fe. Yep.
Yeah, Santa Fe. Right
Right
across
across
from.
the street from the track. What's I don't know. I don't even know if this is what's something Derby wise you would love to have done before the end of your career?
I'd like to see him take them damn light poles down and move the race back to 4:30, but that's never going to happen. The one thing, I do want to go back to, you talking about the changes and stuff like that. The other thing that's changed is the morning workouts. I mean, it
Yeah.
used to be an absolute free for all, trying to figure out what horses are going out, when they're going out. Now they all go out at 8:30 after the break. It's decent light, but it's almost like shooting NASCAR. It's like shooting horses, training on the track. They boom, boom, boom. You get your horses. The nice magic light of. I know you've had some nice pictures, Michael, from morning workouts early with the sun and stuff like that. The problem with it is none of them are Derby horses.
Right.
Yeah.
Every now and then it is, but not in that beautiful glowing sun. So
no, it's not. So that's changed, but it's still.
Yeah, but also, I mean, I know you can speak to this. They used to go without
saddle blankets,
saddle cloths, so you wouldn't know who it was.
Yeah. And somebody just asked a question that I missed. Hold on. Oh, I can scroll down. Ooh, piece of candy. No, Alan White. Alan White. It was the editor of the Eastern Progress in Richmond, Kentucky, when I was in school. He was a couple years ahead of me. He lives now here in Maryland. No, good God Almighty, no. I wish we could do drones at the Derby, but too many people. And NBC's got the helicopter, so. So anyway.
Cool. Well, other than that, unless we have any other Kentucky Derby related questions, I'll probably screen record this and put it up on IGTV. So we can have something up there. So yeah, I'll send it to you so you can post it too, so you can have some content to post. So
IGTV.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to? I'll show you something else. Hold on.
Yeah. What Derby? what is it? Derby memorabilia do you have? There it is.
All right, this is a
Yes.
photo vest. This is actually from the Breeders' Cup. That was when I was working for the AP. It was signed by all my coworkers. Sadly, Ed Ranke and Gary Jones are no longer with us. But that's a memorable one. And I don't know if you can see my
Justify.
Justify Maker's Mark bottle,
Yep.
shot glass, Alibi breakfast, nice little weather vane I picked up
Yep.
from a friend of mine the other day. Bunch of Derby credentials. And I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this?
Yep.
That is signed by Steve Cawthon,
Nice.
who rode a firm to win the Derby.
Wow.
Triple Crown, actually.
Nice.
Um,
You have all the glasses somewhere?
I do have a bunch of glasses. My living room. These are horses that my grandfather's my grandfather ran that wanted Hialeah. There's a picture of Ruffian, filly horse. You'll appreciate this. That's the former governor of Kentucky, Wallace G. Wilkinson. He signed a copy of that picture. He climbed on some horse at some political thing, started petting it.
Wow.
These are some Instagram photos that I got printed and from the Derby that I hung.
Nice.
This is, ironically enough, in the New York Times front page when Justify won. This is actually with my 300.
Is that it? That's Derby. Yeah, it is. I remember that.
Yeah. And then this is Ben Van Hook's picture. You probably can't see it. But so anyway, that's my little paraphernalia that I have. So
awesome.
all right,
Well, cool. Thanks everybody for joining. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Rob, for hopping on and talking about Derby for a little while. I think we'll all take a deep breath at 6:43 and wish we were, racing, shooting a race. But September will be here soon enough, and it'll be nice to get back out there and see everybody and make some nice horse pictures. So.
All right, sweet baby Jesus. We'll see you in September.
Yes, sir. Peace. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.